Traffic, and more traffic here in Cities Skylines 2. For today, our city planner, Frank Abagnale, has reached out to our founder, James Smith, with a major traffic issue that he's found. Right now, our city only has one major bridge for trucks and cars to get off the island and connect to the outside world. So Frank has a plan to build a 5.6 mile underground tunnel from one end of the river to the next. Frank identified the Chesapeake Bay project, which is located between the state of Maryland and Virginia in the United States. Frank is looking to use that project as inspiration for this build. Creating a Cities Skylines 2 underwater tunnel system is we want to create a pier or a platform type landmass off the island that will extend out into the river. The reason why the pier or the platform is necessary is because our highway going into the river, we want to make sure that we have a gradual decline so it just doesn't look awkward and it doesn't look like we just placed down the tunnel itself. So what I'm doing was I right-clicked using the level terrain tool and I just extended out the land and gave us a little bit more space to work with when starting out our underground tunnel system. Step number 2 is to create the outline of the pier or the platform itself. So right now I'm using the alleyway roads, which is the smallest road in Cities Skylines 2, and I'm also using the parallel mode. Both roads will be about 40 units in length and be equal to each other. Now the question of the day is, why are you using parallel road mode? So the interior roads are going to be the roads that have a queue wall, but also will be a part of the declining highway going into the riverbank itself. The exterior road will be used to finish off the pier itself. So basically we will have a land mass or a peninsula in the water. So right now I'm just curving it off and just completing the actual pier itself. So there we go. That is our finished pier. And now we have a lot more work to do. Step number 3 is to prepare the highway to go underground and under the river itself. So what we're doing with the pier is we are doing some terraforming, and right there, the initial hole itself was a little bit too deep for what we were looking for. Once I found the proper depth we are looking for, what I want to do is just expand that out into our pier a little bit. And then what I would like to do is use the sloping tool. Watch, I do this incorrectly, but use the sloping tool just so we can slope down the highway and make sure that it has a nice even slope and it's just not gonna look completely ugly when we create the tunnel itself. So now that we have the slope in place, we do want to make sure that we give ourselves enough space to create the tunnel itself. So there you go, doing a little bit of terraforming. It is a little bit of a tedious process, just letting you know. So now that we have, whoa, we are underground, we don't want that. But now that we have our little decline in place, what we'll do is we will use the highway and drag it down to about a 5%. We're looking for about between 5% and 6% decline. You can see here, I'm kind of struggling with it a little bit, but there you go. We got a 6.7% decline. That seems pretty realistic. If we really want to, we can make sure we edit it a little bit later, but that's a pretty decent decline for what we're trying to look for right now. So far, so good. Now that everything has been terraformed, what we're gonna do is create the tunnel entrance to the river itself. So now that we clicked out, we wanna make sure we're going 180 degrees, hit that page down button to make sure that we are going at a decent incline. So we're going for looks and to make sure that the decline is not too intense. Right now we're at about, we're getting there, but we're gonna be at around a 6.9 to 7.9% decline, which overall for Cities Skylines 2 and not having the Move It mod, that actually looks really, really good. And you can see here, the highway is completely underneath the pier itself. So before we stretch the highway completely across the river itself, what are we going to bump into? All right, so we have an island we can potentially bump into. Then we also have a seaway that we can potentially bump into. So what we need to make sure is that the tunnel itself will go underneath the seaway, but we need to make sure that the cargo ships and the ferry lines are not obstructed by the actual underground tunnel itself. So what we're going to do is we're going to zoom in on our pier, and we want to make sure that we have enough land under the ground. So basically right now, the ocean is extremely deep. You can see here that it is very dark blue water, and it is an extremely deep part of the river itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the level road tool, and I'm going to just level out everything all the way across. So this is also going to be our guideline for the tunnel itself. So you can see here, I'm speeding it up so you don't have to see it, but I just wanted to extend out the seabed just to make sure that nothing was in the way and that the cargo and ferries can easily pass and not get interrupted. While I was doing that additional terraforming, what I wanted to do was extend out another platform or pier on the other side of the river itself. So now that we quickly added the second pier, I was just doing some touch-ups on the seafloor itself. You can see here that, yeah, this ocean is, the river itself is extremely deep. So here, what we're looking at is our cargo ships. Was the seabed we added going to affect the cargo ships itself and run it aground? And you can see here, no, it didn't. It just went straight across. So we do not have that issue. Let's just see if it bumps or looks any different. Here we go. Nope. You can see here, it didn't bump into anything. It just kept going normal. So mission accomplished. All right. So pier number 2. We're working on the mainland itself across the river. So what we want to do is the same thing we did on the island. We need to map out the pier itself. So what we're going to do is use the same exact method we did before to create the platforms themselves. So we're going to use the parallel road mode and just repeat the same exact steps. Now, as you saw before, we used the parallel road mode. This was to just basically create the shape. Oh, got to use the straight line tool, but create the basic shape of our platform itself. So make sure that, hey, we are not rushing to get that highway into the river and make it go way below sea level before it actually should. We want a gradual decline when we're creating the highway entrance to the actual, underground tunnel itself. So we're using the same exact design we used on the other side. Remember, we are using the Chesapeake Bay. We're kind of using that as our template for our underground tunnel itself. And essentially, pretty much this is how their tunnels worked. And I was just essentially using the same method. You can see here also using the Cities Skylines road tool is not the easiest thing in the world. So now that we have our second pier in place, what we need to do next is, like I said, we're repeating the same exact method as we did. So now that we have our pier outline in place, we need to make sure that our highway gets sunken down in a very gradual decline. So what we'll do next is, again, mirroring what we did on the other side. Make sure we use the shift terrain tool, go down a little bit and flatten out the land itself. So that looks a lot better than what we did on the first run. The first run, we went way too deep and it looked extremely weird. Definitely be careful while you're terraforming. Yikes. We went outside our pier boundaries and that could have been a problem. So don't rush when you're doing any terraforming. And this way, like we learned from the very first pier itself, that, make sure we give a lot of space in order to create the tunnels themselves. So we're being very careful with the terraforming where we don't break the game itself, make sure everything is level. All right. So now that we have that in place, what we need to do next is we need to slope and watch. I'm horrible at sloping. Look at that. You have to go right to left, Sports Monkey, right to left. So there we go. We are right to left and we have a gradual decline at around 6 to 7%, which honestly does not seem that horrible when we think about it. It honestly, I don't think it's really that bad of a decline, but that is just my opinion. So now that we're declined and we are into the pier itself, what we'll do is hit that page down button a couple times and just make sure we have about a 5% decline into the tunnel. There you go. That actually looks a lot better than our first pier itself. That looks really good, really smooth. We don't have the move it mod. So from just eyeballing it point of view, that actually honestly was not bad at all. So you can see here, we are underground. So now the problem here is that there is water in the way. So the riverbed is in the way. So how did we combat this problem? So you're gonna see here, I'm zoomed in and it says in the water. So what we had to do to fix this was extend out the land, the same height of the land, and just extend it out more across the river. Now this is obviously going to be temporary, but you can see here that this fixed the problem. You can see here, we are easily being able to create the underground tunnel itself, and it's going very, very quickly until, well, I accidentally overshot. I accidentally overshot it, but you can see here, we'll eventually connect everything up, and adding out that extra landmass honestly made this go a whole lot quicker. Now, I know I'm speeding this up, but it did really make it go a lot quicker connecting everything up. There we go. We have our underground tunnel connected, and we are connected to the actual highway itself. I did not show that on camera because, well, this is not a highway tutorial. This is just creating the tunnel itself. All right, so you can see here we got rid of some of the land and we did some terraforming. Now, what are we gonna do next? We are going to add queue walls on the inside and outside now of our pier itself. And what this is gonna do is it's gonna create a beautiful looking wall that will just look like a very nice stone wall. And just once we remove all the dirt, it's gonna look really, really, really good. So we did the interior, and you can see it's, once we remove the dirt, those queue walls are gonna be there and it's gonna look really, really nice. All right, let's remove some of that dirt so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. So you can see we need to remove the land from the actual highway entrance itself, and you can see the queue walls are just starting to pop out and look really, really nice. What I wanted to do next was, for this part of the pier, I wanted to create a tourist not a destination, almost like a place where people can drive to and just kind of hang out. And you can see here we removed some of the queue walls because we don't need it, and we have a few different options to add tiles, or excuse me, add zoning to. What we're going to do next is connect our pier up to the highway itself. Now this is where things definitely get a little bit more complicated when it comes to connecting up the pier itself. So what I did was I added an extra lane. And what we'll do is we'll add a highway exit so that people can go into the neighborhood itself, and to make sure that they can actually go on the pier itself as well. We are doing the same thing on the opposite side so people can come and go onto that pier. And I did find a pier in real life that actually has a very similar layout. If I find the picture, I will definitely copy and paste it into the video itself. But here, using a very simple road layout, we connect everything out, and it's just a simple way for people to get in and out. And it's essentially a giant U-turn. Actually, the pier essentially is a giant U-turn. So that is kind of interesting within itself. So now that we have our highway exits all in place, everything is starting to slowly come together. Now I'm going to start a detailing montage. Enjoy. I hope you enjoyed that detailing montage. Now that we're back, what I wanted to quickly do is just show you that, hey, I created a highway connection and that was that. Next, I want to go back to the mainland pier and I want to start to add a little bit of commercial buildings to it. So what we wanted to do is, again, create a place where people can just kind of come and hang out from the town itself. It's going to be like one of those piers. If you ever go to like Fort Myers, Florida or something like that, you know, I want to make sure that people can walk on it and it's a desirable place to be in that part of the town. So what I did was I added all of our queue walls. Now what we're going to do next is we will start to do all of the detailing part of this build itself. So let's just start doing the terraforming and the detailing and just really get into it. Again, I really do love the queue walls on the interior part of the actual, you know, tunnel entrance itself. It looks really, really good. It is very tedious. That's why I'm speeding up, because I don't think going at 1.0 speed would be the best. So let's keep going. So what I wanted to do next was I wanted to expand out our residential neighborhood so that, you know, this way, like I mentioned before, that we could have people actually going onto the pier itself as kind of like some form of entertainment itself. So what I'm doing here is I'm creating a little neighborhood where we're going to have some residential and make sure that, you know, we have houses nearby. Now, I know you're going to think to yourself, why would anybody want to live near an underground tunnel? Well, what we'll do is eventually we're going to detail it to where it actually looks like almost like a desirable park. So now that we have everything in place, what we'll do is we will add the detailing montage. Welcome back to the finished underwater tunnel in our city of Stamford. I used the Vietnam tunnel as inspiration for this part of our build. We added a lot of trees, a lot of shrubs and stuff like that. At the tip of the pier itself, we did build a park. So it is a little area where people can come visit, see wonderful views of our downtown. And I think this looks absolutely amazing. The reason why we detailed the pier with so many trees was we have residential in this area and we wanted to make sure that the underground tunnel looked like a desirable park, and I think we got away with that. We have beautiful views of the city and the pier itself looks like a park. You would never know that there is an underground tunnel there unless you live there. So then you can see here we added additional low density housing, and on the left hand side we did add paths for trees and stuff like that. So overall, I think this looks absolutely amazing. I'm happy with all the detailing. I'm very happy with the prop line tool itself. So that side of the build turned out incredible. I couldn't be more happier. Now we're on to the island side. And you can see here, we did add a bunch of trees to the actual part of the entrance itself. And we did literally the same thing. We added more vegetation. We followed the path of the Vietnam Tunnel just by adding more trees, and we created a park area. This side of the pier does not get the best views. I would definitely say the mainland got that, but you can see here we have detailing, we have some commercial buildings, and we have a park. So that is absolutely amazing work right there. Very, very happy with the way this turned out. And you know, we just didn't insert it into the town. We kind of built around it. And you can see here, tons and tons of people are using it. So we no longer have a cul-de-sac here in Cities Skylines 2. Our city now has a full circuit. So thank you guys for watching. I greatly appreciate it. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comment section below. But thank you very much for watching.